One being, again, we just talked about the Guardians. This kind of the recent news with Taika Waititi obviously introducing, or not introducing, but bringing in the Guardians of the Galaxy to his Thor Love and Thunder. Leo, man, what kind of, what can we expect from the Guardians of the Galaxy in Thor 4? A big role, a certain amount of characters going to be all the way in? Is it going to be like the opening of the film? What do you expect from the Guardians and James kind of consulting his characters that he's built? What are you hoping to see from these characters in Thor 4?
Well, I love that James is just always involved with these characters. I mean, he was in an Infinity War and Endgame. Like, he's just had a heavy hand on these characters since their inception in the MCU. So I love that there's this continuity and continuing to involve him with the characters that he established in this universe. I don't really want too heavy of an involvement because I do want to focus on what they're going to do with Thor 4. I'm assuming they're going to go with the Jane Foster Thor and move that route. So I want a little bit more focus on that. I don't think the Guardians are going to have too big of a role in this film, but then again, it could be with what Guardians 3 is coming up with, could be another, like a big role or a massive, but I'm kind of just hoping it's just a little bit, maybe 20 minutes in the beginning, and then you could pop up here and there, but I want this to be a very Thor-focused story, and I want it to just really hammer home that story they're going with, because it seems like possibly passing on the hammer to Jane Foster or doing something with Lady Thor. I want to focus on that mostly and kind of have the Guardians take a back seat to this story, and then Thor, same thing with the Guardians, have that be a Guardian story with Thor involved.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting because, again, this could be a Hulk situation where he's kind of tossed in to fight Thor, and I'm not saying the Guardians going to fight Thor, but just kind of the role that Hulk played in Ragnarok is they kind of splice in different versions of the Guardians. You get Rocket and Groot that can, the CGI characters, so they're not going to be, super expensive to kind of get their voice acting versus having someone there like a Gamora, having a, Chris Evans or Chris Pratt, things of that nature. So, Owen, man, just your thoughts on what we can expect from the Guardians, and also just kind of your anticipation for Thor Love and Thunder, which has a lot. Valkyrie, we got Thor coming in the mix again, and all the different stuff that we have. Goodness gracious, Christian Bale as God, the butcher, man. It's so much going on with this film, man. What's your thoughts on Thor 4?
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I don't expect to see much of the Guardians. I think that, like you said, it'll probably be the first 20 minutes. I think we'll get a sense of okay, at the end of Endgame, he and the Guardians go off into space as Guardians of the Galaxy. I'd like to see something like at the start of Guardians 2, where you got that opening credits scene where they're all fighting the big monster, maybe something like that to set up, I don't know, Thor's been with the Guardians for a year, here's some of the little adventures they've gone on, and then they kind of drop him back off at Asgard to check in, and then, I don't know, Christian Bale's there shouting at people off camera or something. doing Christian Bale stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I can't imagine they'll have a long presence. I think it's mostly just to tie up the loose ends of where his character was the last time we saw him, get some fun interactions with those characters that he bounces off really well, and then also kind of set the Guardians off out in the galaxy, doing their own thing in Guardians 3. I think in terms of Taika handling these characters, obviously, there was that time when James Gunn wasn't going to be doing Guardians 3, when for one reason or another, he was taking off that project, and a lot of people, jump to, if we can't have him, Taika's probably the next best person. He understands Gunn's style of humor. They have a very similar sensibility tonally, and there are a lot of similarities between Ragnarok and the Guardians films. Taika, is a very, very brilliant director in his own right. I think he's phenomenal, but he definitely has the right style and sensibilities for those characters and to write them really well. And if James Gunn gives him the seal of approval to do that, I think it'll be brilliant.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It is interesting that, it is James Gunn. Every time there's a Guardian involved, that, he's going to be attached. I wonder how much further into the MCU, if he doesn't direct anything after Guardians 3, if he's going to always be attached to them as a consultant, or we're going to get a new Guardians after Guardians 3. It'll be really interesting to see what happens there. And if DC wants him to come back for a Suicide Squad 2.
That's the thing. He's doing Suicide Squad. There's the Peacemaker TV show that he's developing. Yeah.
And he's doing Morbius.
It's a lot on his plate.
I say he's got a lot to juggle, but I'm sure he can manage.
We'll see. And then tossing it to you, the Blurb Girl, in regards to what would you like to see Guardians' role to be in Thor 4, and just kind of the Avengers level type of film that this is setting up. So many characters. Is it worrisome that we might not get a cohesive film with so many characters in this film so far? But just your thoughts on James Gunn being involved in the Guardians role in Thor 4.
Well, I think James Gunn is being involved just to make sure that people stay like sort of like he's got probably him and his team have the Bible on the development of the characters, his original vision. So I think it's good that he's willing to share that with Taika. I also don't think Taika's gonna listen, but and he's also very, very big on improv, so I feel really bad for those editors. I do think that just like Eternals, we are being seen a whole bunch of people. Right? All of these people cannot be the star of this movie. Same thing with Eternals. I don't think you can't have everybody have all the screen time. Otherwise, why not just put them on Disney Plus and give them 16 episodes or something? So if we're talking a 2.5 hour movie, it is going to be Thor's movie, I think. And I do think there's going to be some element of it that's probably going to be tied to Loki's show. And I also think chasing him down or finding, what the heck happened. And I do think that banter that we saw set up between the Guardian, sort of the Chris's in Avengers is kind of like the same reason we have Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like that, you cannot tell me that show didn't come about because of Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan being stuck together on press tours and just acting the fool on stage, and that was their chemistry, Yeah. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that banter, but it's really going to probably be, I think it might be the Chris's movie with Gamora and the other characters coming in and out, or it might be something about Rocket. And here's the really, really weird part. There is a tiny, if you squint, connection between Guardians of the Galaxy and WandaVision. And that's Rocket. And I'm thinking of the cow. Bovine. Bovie took care of the twins when she lost her mind. And Bovie's also the anthropomorphic animal scientist that created Rocket. So that's what I'm saying. Like, if you squint. Now, I am not saying that the big character that's going to show up in the season finale is going to be a talking cow. I am just saying that there is a connection. Yeah. And there's so much that they can play with. But I, TLDR, really think it's going to be Thor's movie. And somebody we're not going to see that much of. I don't know if it's going to be Gamora or whoever. They're going to come in and out. But I think it's going to be sort of like a buddy movie with the Chris's.
I can see that happen because they do have, like you said, some great chemistry. But Chris, tossing it to you, man. Just kind of what's your expectation levels for the Guardians' role in this Thor 4 film, and how much you're going to be tied into it, and this is going to be a launching pad into their film, which I believe will be coming out the following year or 2 years after that. But just your thoughts on James Gunn being attached to consulting these characters, and what you're hoping to see for Thor 4, man.
No, yeah, I'm excited to see what Taika Waititi does, and it's great, that they have this interaction where they're going to collaborate and tell each other. I think it's just funny how we forget, before James Gunn got canceled and all that debacle happened, we were supposed to get Guardians 3 before Thor 4, and I feel like Guardians 3 was supposed to be the team up Thor movie with the Guardians going on an adventure, having fun. Then by the end of the movie, they would have dropped off Thor wherever, leading into his movie, Thor Love and Thunder. So I don't know if the timeline is still going to be fitting in with that, or if they have to change around Guardians now to take place after Thor 4. Because in my mind, I thought it would just be the beginning of the movie. It's just the Guardians kind of hinting at the adventure they just had where they drop off Thor. They're like, oh, we had fun. It was crazy. We battled things. You got in shape. Go find Jane Foster now or something. I don't know. Yeah. But so that's what I'm curious is if this one is still going to be taking place before Guardians 3 or after, and what that means for the timeline. But hey, I'm always happy to see the Guardians. I also read somewhere that like James Gunn was originally going to become like a producer, a mainstay in like the MCU going forward. But then that whole cancel thing kind of dropped it out. So now he's doing this movie and the holiday special, and I think then he's just done with Marvel after that.
Yeah, he was. That's why I was saying Morbius. He was originally involved in that. He's not now. Somebody in the chat was asking that too. He's not now, but he was. That Marvel seems to have that little like they play with all the directors and move them around.
Yeah.
And producers. And so I don't think he's involved now, but he was originally involved.
Just sad.
I think
I would like to have seen. Yeah.
And still, I think with DC, we'll see what his relationship is with Disney moving forward. But I think you're totally right. You guys hit it right on the head. There was a time and point that he was supposed to be like the Phase 4 Kevin Russo brothers and creating the cosmic universe and having like his hands involved in all those stories. But, things change, which I think it worked out for the better because I think we're going to get a great Suicide Squad film. If he would have still been working with Disney all these years, we might have never gotten him on Suicide Squad. So it's, things work out. Things work out in the multiverse in a weird way. So